it is unbearable to think that a big part of America no longer believes in any kind of democracy. They no longer believe in the rules that we all live by, in the pursuit of goodness and fairness and progress. Donald Trump is gone from the White House, but we know that the hate and division that defined his corrupt tenure has been with us since our founding. So many were willing to believe lies about the legitimacy of President Biden's victory because they had lost faith in the integrity of our democratic system. Some were even willing to engage in horrific violence because they believed elections could be stolen. The architects of the January 6th authoritarians, white nationalists, and those who stand to benefit from the continued undermining of our democracy want us to feel this way. For years, the dangerous coalition has worked to limit access to the ballot box, undermine fair voting districts, continuously spread disinformation about voter fraud. And in the wake of their attack on the Capitol, they now have accelerated their efforts. In 2021 alone, 19 states have passed 34 laws restricting the access to voting, continuing the assault on our electoral system. These efforts have eroded Americans' faith that they can actually choose their own elected representatives, sabotaged public trust in electoral outcomes, and disenfranchised countless voters, especially communities of color, indigenous people, the poor, young Americans, and individuals with disabilities. The big lie is that the election was stolen from Donald Trump in 2020. It was not. The big truth is that Donald Trump and his allies have put in place a process to steal the election of 2022 and 2024. That is the big truth of what is going on in this country right now. And the way they're going to accomplish that big truth is by having state after state in the United States pass laws which restrict the access to vote for black and brown and indigenous and poor and disabled Americans. That is the big truth about what is going on in our country right now. A systematic plan to steal the election of 2022, to steal the presidency in 2024. And the Republican Party has become a wholly owned subsidiary of Donald Trump on the issue of voter suppression, on the issue of making it impossible for this body, for the United States Congress, to pass laws which protect the rights of every American to vote. But we do have a chance right now on the Senate floor to stand up to this anti-democratic movement and to banish these discriminatory policies and put them in the political dustbin of history. The Senate can and must take action to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. And we must abolish the filibuster. If just for this issue, to protect the right to vote for every person in our country. And with these bills, if we modify the filibuster, American voices will no longer be drowned out by special interests, by redistricting that keeps black and brown communities marginalized, and by voting laws that are reminiscent of poll taxes and literacy tests that were used for centuries to stop black voters, minority voters, from participating in our democracy. We need expanded early and mail-in voting. We need automatic and same-day voter registration. We need to make Election Day a national holiday. We need to get rid of hours-long voting lines. We need to ban partisan gerrymandering. We need to get dark money out of our elections. We need to end the discriminatory voting laws that restrict access to the ballot box on the basis of race and age and income and more. We now have the opportunity to make sure that every voice is heard in our democracy. The 85-year-old black woman in Georgia who has waited hours to cast her ballot without even a bottle of water. The newly naturalized family in Arizona who took the bus 45 minutes to the closest voting location, energized by the chance to fully participate in American democracy. The mother of 4 in Massachusetts who works 2 jobs just to make ends meet and desperately needs that mail-in ballot. These are the voices that the ugly mob of hate and violence and division that attacked the Capitol on January 6th do not want to be heard in American politics in 2022 in the United States of America. But will we stand up? We have to ensure that at our moment in American history, that there's enough evidence to convict us of having stood up for democracy, of having fought for all of those who will otherwise be disenfranchised. This year, 2022, in the United States of America. Otherwise, we will have been found wanting in preserving the foundations of our democracy. That we will have fixed this broken system of government that is being dismantled by Republicans across this country, state after state, with Republicans here in Washington unwilling to cast a single vote. Not one Republican willing to stand up and say, we must pass laws to protect against what's happening in state after state to suppress the votes of black and brown and disabled and poor and indigenous Americans. With the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act, we will not only guarantee that all Americans can exercise their right to vote in free and fair elections, we can also counter the distrust and the disenchantment that the insurrectionists exploited on January 6th. These reforms can restore Americans' faith in the peaceful transfer of power and prevent another attempt at insurrection by ensuring we have a government that is truly of, by, and for the American people. 1 year after the attack on the Capitol, we understand how fragile our democracy is and that the fight to protect it requires vigilance and clear-eyed determination. The very least we can offer the American people, all American people, on this day is our commitment to protect their right to vote. Former Attorney General Ramsey Clark, who helped draft the original Voting Rights Act in 1965, once said, "A right is not what someone gives you, it's what no one can take from you." Let us pass this historic legislation so that no one can take the fundamental right to vote away from those who rightfully have it today. The job of building and protecting a healthy and strong democracy is the sacred duty of this institution. The fate of the United States depends on us doing our jobs. May this day, January 6th, always remind us that we must never give up that fight. And here in 2022, let us win this fight on the floor of the United States Senate to protect the right to vote for every American, regardless of the state they live in, regardless of their color, their religion, their country of origin. That is our historic responsibility. God help the Senate if it does not respond to this historic challenge. I yield back, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
The senator from Oregon is recognized.
Before he leaves, I want to thank my colleague from Massachusetts. We have worked often together on these democracy issues, and I look forward to doing that in the days ahead. I also want to commend Senator Klobuchar from Minnesota, because she has been our point person